Ladies and gentlemen, the chief guest of the event, Minister for Housing, Land and Urban Development, Dr. Ali Haider Ahmad.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لو أنزلنا هذا القرآن على جبل لرأيته خاشعا متصدعا من خشية الله وتلك الأمثال نضربها للناس لعلهم يتفكرون هو الله الذي لا إله إلا هو عالم الغيب والشهادة هو الرحمن الرحيم هو الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الملك القدوس السلام المؤمن المهيمن العزيز الجبار المتكبر سبحان الله عما يشركون هو الله الخالق البارئ المصور له الأسماء الحسنى يسبح له ما في السماوات والأرض وهو العزيز الحكيم صدق الله العظيم.
Chief guest of the event, Minister for Housing, Land and Urban Development, Dr. Ali Haider Ahmad. Country Director for UNFPA Maldives, Mr. Kunle Adeni. Decision makers shaping our present and future. Distinguished invitees and guests, and fellow advocates for youth. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to World Population Day 2024, an event dedicated to fostering dialogue and action towards a resilient and equitable future for all. I'm Ilfa Sharif, and it's an honor to be one of your hosts for today's event.
And I'm Ahmadiyad Yusuf, thrilled to co-host with Ilfa as we navigate through this significant discussion on the World Population Day 2024. Ladies and gentlemen, today's ceremony is a collaborative effort between the Ministry of Housing, Land and Urban Development, Maldives Bureau of Statistics, and the United Nations Population Fund UNFPA, and a dedicated team of very young, very informed and enthusiastic group of youth driven to share their concerns as citizens of Maldives, who now go one step further to propose solutions for you, the decision makers guiding our future to celebrate the World Population Day, under the theme Embracing the Power of Inclusive Data Towards a Resilient and Equitable Future for Us All.
We began the ceremony with a recitation of Holy Quran by Ms. Aishat Arshi. Now I would like to invite Country Director for UNFPA Maldives, Mr. Kunle Adeni, to deliver the opening remarks. Mr. Kunle Adeni.
The guest of honor at this event today, Honorable Minister of Housing, Land and Urban Development, Dr. Ali Haider. The Minister of Youth, Ms. Aisat Yusuf, State Ministers here present, top government functionaries, our friends from the Maldives Bureau of Statistics and other government organizations, young people of the Maldives, all our friends, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum. It's always a pleasure for me to come to Maldives and spend some time with you and enjoy the warmth and the beauty of this beautiful country that I'm privileged to serve. Anytime I come to Maldives, it's always bright, the energy is always fantastic, it's always warm, and I spend good time, with our partners, talking about how we can do better for the current and future populations in this country. So it's great to address you this morning. It gives me great pleasure to welcome all esteemed dignitaries and the young people here today as we commemorate World Population Day. I want to congratulate the government of Maldives for the significant progress made. This year's theme, Embracing the Power of Inclusive Data Towards a Resilient and Equitable Future for All, highlights the importance of our continued efforts to create a more equitable Maldives. 30 years ago, many governments convened in Cairo to agree on a progressive program of action at the International Conference on Population and Development. Today, people around the globe enjoy better health, education, and employment prospects. In the Maldives, life expectancy has increased by 20 years. Almost all women survive childbirth, and more women are educated, enabling them to pursue their dreams and have an equitable future. This powerful momentum from 1994 has sustained and renewed progress for the masses. UNFPA's annual signature report, State of the World Population, to be launched here later today, articulates that no country can claim they have reached everyone, despite all our efforts. This report sheds light on progress and the threads of hope for ending inequalities. Interestingly, the more we do, the more we realize how unequal our world is. So it's a catch-22 situation. However, the report also discusses the multiple crises, conflict, including COVID-19 and the climate crisis, which of course Maldives is a significantly experiences. These multiple crises have put decades of progress at risk and threaten future advancement. I'd like to congratulate the successive government of this beautiful country for the immense progress made for the people of Maldives. It is no easy feat to have reduced maternal and child mortality, and also the achievements towards the girl-child education. I also want to recognize the emerging challenges, especially in access to services, and the pace of progress that really needs to be accelerated. Political and social polarization, coupled with economic disparities, and the looming threat, and I will not even call it looming threat, the clear and present threat of climate change, drive the policies around reproductive services to the marginalized. The ongoing financial challenges exacerbates these issues, making it crucial to address them with urgency and precision. In my many interactions with the chief guest, the Honorable Minister of Housing, we speak about the challenges we see on the road in Maldives, in Mali, for example, housing, transportation, the opportunities, and the significant issues that affect people to make the right choices or their desired choices based on the environment we live in. Significantly, better data has been collected since 1994. It's aggregated by sex, income, location, and age, and increasing data now on disability, one of the most significant groups that we continue to live in behind, people living with disability. This data helps capture all forms of marginalization. The United Nations Population Fund, the organization which we are proud to represent, has been on ground supporting census exercises, providing a wealth of information to shape policies. And I'm especially, again, grateful to the partnership with the Ministry of Housing, Land, and Urban Development that ensures that people are at the center of policymaking. Like in many parts of the world, Maldives is going through a demographic transition. With the development of that, we enjoy fertility rates have declined, and the working age population is shrinking. The country has more child dependence, and this will change with an increasing aging population. This demographic shift alone calls for a different approach to service delivery, social protection, and the economic sector. Oftentimes when we have these conversations, different people come up with different solutions to try to address issues that they feel are problems. But I will encourage that we see opportunities in everything, even in our demographic shifts and fertility. Maybe it helps us to look at another population that we have not tapped into properly. Maybe it helps us to engage and look at how we want our society to shape and to deliver the Maldives we want. In the face of this advancement, we must not forget those who are still left behind. While the Maldives has had domestic violence prevention legislation since 2012, women and girls continue to experience violence at home, highlighting the ongoing challenge despite the laws in place to protect women and girls. Consider the story of Aisha, a young woman navigating rehabilitation from drug addiction, struggling with limited access to family planning services. The challenge lies not in its availability, but in the complex social barriers that hinder accessibility. Simultaneously, many babies are born to drug-using mothers, but they are placed in state care, shedding light on the broader societal implications of inadequate support systems for vulnerable populations. In essence, what happens to these children, and what is their chance of early childhood development, and what do they become in life? Access to these services is key to ensuring rights and choices and empowering people to make informed decisions about their lives. Aisha's situation underscores the importance of supportive policies that ensure equal access to social services. So I hope today young people will consider a global trend as they form their vision and aspiration, identifying pathways to meet their goals. No one wants a world where half of all pregnancies are unintended. We all want a world where women, girls, men, boys can complete their education, transition to productive lives, start families if they wish, and contribute meaningfully to the society. This celebration marks a key milestone toward the Summit of the Future to be held in September 2024, where the world leaders will decide upon the future of multilateralism. Through intergovernmental documents, Pact for the Future, and the Declaration of Future Generations, global decision-making will make commitments toward expanding and strengthening youth participation in global decision-making. I take this opportunity to call on the government and beautiful people of Maldives to create an enabling environment for young people to fulfill their rights and potential through education, jobs, physical, and mental health. Around the world, mental health is becoming a significant issue, and unfortunately, Maldives is not left behind. National youth consultative bodies, resources for youth-led organizations, removing legislative and policy barriers, and flexible funding, including a global youth investment platform, will begin to help us shape a significant part of our population. At both national and global level, decision-making needs to be systematically to take future impacts into account. Before I conclude, I have two groups to thank. First, I thank the Maldives Bureau of Statistics for organizing today's event. Much gratitude to the young people who have contributed to shaping this event. But I must thank the Ministry of Housing, Land and Urban Development for two things, as you are the minister. From the moment we came to the office, we had access to you, and we have been able to talk and speak together on ways to shape, with your team, shape policies in this country. A few months ago, we were in New York together for the International Conference on Population and Development, where Maldives proudly restated its commitment to people and the environment, taking its particular interest in its peculiarities and sharing with the world. For that, we're very grateful. And once again, we look forward to UNFPA's continually working with all partners to shape a future that all Maldivians want, a future where everybody thrives, and a future where everyone can meet the height of their ambition. Welcome once again.
Thank you, Mr. Kunle Adeni, for setting the stage for today's discussion further with your valuable insights. I'm pretty sure we all agree on your points. Now, it is time for our youth advocates to present their vision for the future. This is the culmination of the Vision 2050 workshop held in collaboration with the Ministry of Housing, Land and Urban Development, UNFPA Maldives, and Maldives Bureau of Statistics from the 1st to 3rd of this July. This workshop was aimed to equip our youth to understand and partake in policy making in various levels, promoting engaging conversations and innovative ideas for a future for us all. This presentation will highlight their hopes, their dreams, and their plans for a prosperous and inclusive Maldives, a change we hope will be seen by 2050. As such, it is our dream that the contributions we have made for our own future will be considered at the policy level by our champions, so that the bridge between what is now and what we envision by 2050 has been begun to build. But before moving on to the presentation, let us take a moment to share a brief clip of the work our youth advocates did during the Vision 2050 workshop. Ladies and gentlemen, a quick public service announcement. We have now been transported to the future. It is now the year 2050.
السلام عليكم باجور هدولكم مرحبا مي تصور تهاز فانساس program algon namki تصور ثوريف mi program ka algon men ali alwal ane rayutun ke dolayo kamai gaumi teraggi beenu vi kurierun takai e kurierun ta hasu kur mad dimai konje hun taka mi gotun algon men sarkar ke dara ta ke state minister na ane mi program dawat arwan adi mi kanta taka mi mawdu taka ali alwal mi gotun furtam algon me ane mi stage dawat mi arwadi Minister of State for Economic Development, Hanan, Adi Minister of State for Governance and Administration, Ivani. Program Vadaganda with Varabra Shukriya de Befruna.
ಶುಕ್ರಿಯಾ ತಾರಿಫ್
మీ దమ్మె అడుగు ధన్యవాదాలు హెమ్మి మీ హర్ మీ దేహ స్పాన్సర్స్ వన ప్రోగ్రామ్ అది మీ దేహ సబ్బిస తెరే అనే దేహ సబ్బి హుం దేహ స్పాన్సర్ అవముగ తెరేగా గౌమి కురియరు మట్టక వరగిన మస్కెత కురియవిగ కొసి ఎగతుం అనే ఫుర్తుం అడుగున సువా కొల్లం బెను మీ ఇక్తిసాది కురియరు త హాసు కురుముగ ఏరుగు హురి దైతకి కొబాతో
ತಾರಿಫ್ ಎಂಗೆ ವಡನ್ನವನ್ ವಿಹಿ ಸವ್ವಿಸ್ವನ ಆಹಾರ ಅಳ್ಗಂಡ್ ಮೆಮ್ಮೆ ಮಸಕ್ಕೆ ಕುರಂ ಫೆಶೀರು ಏರು ರಾಜ್ಯಗೆ ಇಕ್ತಿಸೋದು ಅತಿ ಜಮೀನ್ ಜಮಾನ್ ಕುಸ್ ನೋಟೆ ಹಾ ಅಡಿಯ ವೆಟಿಫ ಕರ್ನೆಗೆ ಅಳ್ಗಂಡ್ ಮೆನ್ನ ಫಾಹ ಕುರೆವನು ಬೈನಲಗುವ ಮಶಹಗೆ ದಿಮಾವೆಗೆಂದೆ ಕಂತತಕ ಗುಳಿಗೆನ್ನ ರಾಜ್ಯಗೆ ಇಕ್ತಿಸೋದು ವರ ಬೊಡ ಎಸ್ ಸಿನಾತಕ ಭರೋಸಾವೆ ಫೋನ್ನ ಒತುಮಾ ಗುಳಿಗೆಂಗ್ ಹಮ ಮಾಲಿ ದತಿತಮ ದೌಲತವ್ವೆಸ್ ರೈಯುತುನ್ನವ್ವೆಸ್ ವಿಹಿ ಸವ್ವಿಸ್ವನಾಹಾರು ಇಹ್ಸಾಸ್ ಕುರೆ ವಾಕಂ ಅಳ್ಗಂಡ್ ಮೆನ್ನ ಫಾಹ ಕುರೆವಿಗೆ ಮೇ ಮಸಕ್ಕೆ ಕುರಿಯ ಗೆಂದಲ್ ನಿಮ್ಮಿವೆಸ್ ದೆಂಗ್ ಅಳ್ಗಂಡ್ ಮೆಂಗ್ ಏರು ತಿ ಮಸಕ್ಕೆ ತು ದಿಯ ಗೊತಕ ವಕಿ ಫಾಡು ದಣ್ಣವನಿ ಕಿವೆಸ್ ನೋನೆ ಏಕಮ ವಿಹಿ ಫನ್ಸಹ ಹಿಸಾಬಂ ಅಣ್ಣಂ ಹಮ ವರ ಬ್ಯಾವರ್ ಕಂತತಕ್ಕೆ ಬದಲ್ ಕೊಗೆನೆ ರಾಜ್ಯಗೆ ಇಕ್ತಿಸೋದು මෙ වුරේ ෆුලාකොන් එහෙ නිහෙන් ගොත සිනා ಈ ಮಾಸೆಕೆತ ಕುರಿಯರುವ ಆಮುನ್ನ ಏಗೆನ್ ಆಮ್ದನಿ ಲಿಬಿ ಫಾದಾ ಹೋದೇನೆ ಗೊತ್ತಕೆನ್ ಆಲ್ಗನ್ ಮೆ ಮಗ್ ಫೈ ಕೊದಿನಿ
ಅಡೆ ಮಿಗುತುಂ ಅನೆ ಮಿದಿಮಾವಿ ಹುರಸ್ತ ಹಲ್ಲು ಕುರುಮಟ್ಟಕ ಕುರೆವಣಿ ಕೊಂಕ ಮಸಕತ್ತಕತ್ತ ಇಕ್ತಸಾದಿ ಮಿನಿಸ್ಟ್ರಿಗೆ ಫರಾತು
ಆಲ್ಗನ್ ಮೆಂಗೆ ವರ ಬೊಡು ಎಫ್ ಫೋಕಸ್ ತಕ ವಿ ಫತುರುವೆರಿ ಕಮಂಗ್ ಹುರಿಹಾ ರಿಸೋರ್ಸಸ್ ತಕೆ ಫುನಿ ಜೆಹಿ ಫೋಯೆನ್ ಒತುಂ ಬದಲ್ ಕುರು ඒගේ ඉතුර ග්‍රේටර් මාලේ අල්ගන් මෙන් කියාෆ මුනි ගෞමල් ලිබි ෆහුරි වසීලෙත්තකෙන් හැම එත්තනක ෆුනි ජෙහි ෆහුරි හුරුන් අල්ගන් මෙන් ඩිසෙන්ට්‍රලයිස් නොත එහෙන් අනේ හිසාබුතකන් ඒගේ ෆෑදා සැචුරේට් වණ කාල ගොතක මේ ප්‍රෝග්‍රෑම් තක කුරිය ගෙන්දේ තොමසක කරත ඒගේ තෙරේග ෆහග කොල්ලම් බේනුවේ ಕುದಿ ಅದಿ ಮೆದು ಫಂತಿಗೆ ವ್ಯಾಪಾರಿತ ಕುರಿಯರುಮ ಆಳ್ಗಂಡ್ ಮೈ ಹಮ ಟೂಲ್ಸ್ ತಕೆ ಪ್ರೊವೈಡ್ ಕೊದ್ದಿನಿ ದೆಂಗ್ ಏಗೆ ವರ ಪಾಸಿಟಿವ್ ಔಟ್ಲುಕ್ ಫೆನು ನೀಮ ಹಮ ಎಮೆರುಮುಂ ಇತುರ ಕುರಿಯ ದಾಂವೆಗೆ ಅಂಹೆಂ ಮಸಕ್ಕೆ ತೆರಿನ ಫತುರ್ ವೆಲ್ಕಮ್ಗೆ ದಾಯರಾಯಿನ ಹೆನಿ ಹೆನ್ಸಿನ ಎತ್ತಕು ಫುರ್ಸತು ದಿ ಅದಿ ಮೀಗೆ ಇತುರುಂ ಅಣೆ ಜಮಾನಿ ಬದಲ್ತ ಟೆಕ್ನಾಲಜಿ ದೆನ್ ತಾರಿಫ ಎಂಗಿಲವ್ವಾನ ವಿಹಿ ಸವಿಹಾ ವಿಹಿ ಫನ್ಸಾಹ ದೇತೆರೆ ಬದಲ್ವಿ ಕೀನೆಕ್ಕ ಆಳ್ಗಂಡ್ ಮೆನ್ನ ವರ ಬೊಡಂಗ್ ಏಗೆ ಬೇಣುಂಕ ಫೋನಿಕನ್ ಲಿಬಿಗೆನ್ ಟೆಕ್ನಾಲಜಿಗೆ ಸಬಬುಂ ವೆಸ್ ರಾಜ್ಯಗೆ ದುರು ರತ್ತೋಗ ಮಿಹುರಿ ಉಂದಗೂತಕ ಅರಗನ ಫಸೆಹವಿ ದೆನ್ ಮೀಗೆ ಇತುರು ನುರಸ್ಮಿ ಮಸೆಕ್ಕೆ ನೋತ ಫ್ರೀಲಾನ್ಸ್ ಮಸೆಕ್ಕೆ ನೋತ ಮ್ಯೂಸಿಕಾ ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟಿವ್ ದೆನ್ ದಿವೆಹಿಂ ಮೂದಾ ಕ್ಯಾರಿ ವೀಮ ಕಣ್ಣಂಗೆ ಫಹಗ ಕುರೆವೆ ಹಮ ಆದ್ಯ ಹಿಲಫ್ ತೂನು ಫಿಲಿ ರೈತೆನ್ ಉಳೆ ಗೌಮೆಕ್ಕಮ್ಮಿ එහෙම විම skills are tools are talents are algon men afahag kurevuni me mikala maseketake sama zuanonna angenonna kuriyaru support digen wara promising natija take nikuti medu vi fansaha algon men hindamale geta
ඔබ ශුක්‍රියා ගත හොන මේ දැන් කොමගත වෙස් ඉක්තිසාදි කුරියරුන් තව අනේ මේ හාසු කුරුම්ග සරකාරක වර බොඩ රෝල් එක කුරෙන් එම මිගතු අලගොන් මේ ෆුර්තම අහලම් බේනුමනේ ඒරුගේ හුරි අනේ కొంచెం తాకి కొబాతో సర్కారు మీ అనే లండదరిత హాసు కురుముగ
ಶುಕ್ರಿಯಾ ಸರ್ಕಾರ ಹಿಂಗುಮುಗ ಬಾವೆ ಫಹುರಿ ಸಗಾಫೆತ್ತ ಕಾ ಫಾರವೆರಿವ ನಿಜಾಮ್ ತಕ್ಕುಂ ರಯತುನ್ ತಮ್ಸೇವ್ ಕುರುಮುಗ ಹುರಿ ಮಸಲತ ಫಾಗ ಕುರವನು
ದಿಂ ಅನೆ ಮಿ ಫಾಹ ಕುರವನು ಮಿ ಮಸತಕ ಮಿ ಸಗಾಫೆತ್ತಕ ಬದಲ್ ಕುರಂ ಜೋಡಿ ಕೊಂಕತ್ತಕ ತಾದೆ ಮಿ ನಿಜಾಬ ಕುರೆಫಾ ವಡ ಕೊಂಕ ಮಸಕತ್ತಕ
ಫುರ್ತಮ ಗತೆಗ ಸಿಯಾಸಿ ಅದ ಇಕ್ತಿಸಾದಿ ಸ್ವೇತಕುಗ ತಫಾತು ಕುರುಮೆನ್ ಎತಿ ಡೈವರ್ಸಿಫಿಕೇಶನ್ ಖಶವರ ಕುರುಮಾಯ ಶಾಮಿಲ್ ಕುರುವನು ಸುಮೇಕಿ ಸ್ವೇತಕುಗ ರಕ್ಕಾತರಿಕನ್ ಖಶವರ ಕುರುಮಶಾ ಎಮ್ಮೆ ಶಾಮಿಲ್ ಕುರುಮ ಗಾನೂನಿ ಗಿವಕಂಡೆ ತಯಾರು ಕುರುವನು ಅದೆ ಏಕಮ ಹಾಸ ಸೆಮಿನಾ ತಕೆ ಬೇಪುನು ಎನ್ವೈರನ್ಮೆಂಟಲ್ ಪ್ರೊಟೆಕ್ಷನ್ ಏಜೆನ್ಸಿ ಮೆಂಬರ್ ಕೊ ಮಸೈಕೆ ಕುರುವನು ಕುರುವೆನ ಪ್ರೊಸೆಸ್ ತ ಖಮಜಸ್ಸುಮ ಏಕಮ ಗುಳುಂ ಹುಡೆ ಗಾನೂನು ತಕು ವರುಗದ ಕುರುಡು ಜಿಮ್ಮಾದಾರುವ ನಿಜಾಮತ ಗಾಯಮುಖ ವರುಗದ ಕುರುವು ಅದೇ ದಿವೆ ರಾಜ್ಯಗೆ ಫಿಸ್ಕಲ್ ಹಾಲ ರಂಗಳು ಕುರುಮ ಕಾನೂನಿ ಗಿವಗಂಡ ಕಾಯ್ ರೆಗ್ಯುಲೇಷನ್ ತಯಾರು ಕುರು ಸಿಯಾಸಿ ಅಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ತ ಮದು ಕುರು ಅದೇ ಆಮು ಹಿದುಮತ್ತಂಗ್ ಇತುರ ವಶಾಜಸ್ಸ ರೈತುನ್ನ ಎಕ್ಸೆಸ್ ಇತುರ ಫಾಹಿ ಕುರುವನು
ಒಬ್ಬ ಶುಕ್ರಿಯಾ ಗತೋ ಇವಾಣಿ ದೆಬೆ ಫುಲ್ಸ್ ಪ್ರೋಗ್ರಾಮ್ ವಡಗನ ಇತು ವರಬಡ ಶುಕ್ರಿಯಾ mi huria befrolas inki wada gannawan fadan mifada programme kenes de raitunna hisaba kenes den warakina bayge huitere kamayki mikutun algon menge furtama sponsor menge handang a kollana alumnum fruta sponsor ki corruption filwa ingeto da kometa kon corruption ge masal dimawanita corruption nattalam undagulita corruption filwa beno korawa corruption fohelabuni very very shukriya ingeto Misabu Anikas Algonming, Itur the State Minister Dawat Arwani stage. Misabu Algon Furtomi Dawat Arwani, Minister of State for Infrastructure, Zuhaya. Zuhaya me Algonming studio in Guladan, and me ma Furto me Guladan is Zuhaya. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
The Algonming show Varabada Marhaba Ingeto, Minister. मी हम आर्टिकल में मेदुम प्रोग्राम में अलवालनी दिव्य राज्य के तरह बेणुम वे कंदता का एकंदता हासु कुरोन कोता मी की तरह इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर मिनिस्ट्री कुरोनी कोंका मसकत के तो अधि फुर्तम अने ए हासु कुरोन कंदता के वाह के दिवम कुरिंग अने मी दिमाग दायित्व की कोबातो आर्टिकल में नकिया दो फंड तो
शुक्रिया तसव्वुर तौर मी के 26 आहार कुरे 2024 या बालाला नाम राज्यवती कुल्लिया का तरगिये के सबबुंग एवस कोलेक्ट करने चाहिए अनेहम बुनाना मोती वाला outdated infrastructure मुझतमों के गुरुंग हीना रुए sustainable standards दबे उम्रानी तरह की बोसन लाफते
दिंग अने मिकंदता हल्लुकुर मट्ट का मिनिस्ट्री को फरातो एलुनी कोंकाल के अने सरकार को फरातो एलुनी कोंकाल फियर तक तो
अदे मेहारो देहास फांसा हब्बालाना मेहारो हब्बालाना मा अर्गुन में रायतुंगे मिन्ने मसक्कतुन resilient मुझतमों वे उपेदिचे intergenerational unity gaim kuravi multipurpose spaces maintain kuramundani da then kurige oi concrete jungle system wala pehi green rajyaka vepa miharu myoti then rangalu public transport system e gaim ko efficient kong bicycle rent kura system e kamyab kamai ko kuriya deda to eba then infrastructure economies miharu duniyaga standard ge disability accessible kon climate crisis respond ko gaim kurai pa miharu thi then yad kurai nevi hakatavis miharu hama 7% rajya ge benum kurave mi renewable energy miha kamyabu wegem diye hama majority rayitunge eppadu nibigen then public residential tantana spatial plan kuri accessibility high gong emmen avs enjoy kurave kahala pakal tantam ves miharu ragina data
मी बराबर शुक्रिया तक तो ते देवी मालूमात है वे मार्गों में मेंगे में दनी मी मसत हल्लुकुर मट का राई तो ना सरकार है कि गुलिगम वर्ग न मसत इफाकं अरे मसक तो साबु मेदु हालत बराबर तो नगल वेफाक जेकिंग मेहमान गुलाल मो कुरे अलगोन में अनिक का स्पॉन्सर की मतिंग हंदा आकोल दाना अलगोन में देंगे स्पॉन्सर की निजामी रिक्पया वर्कशॉप अद्भुत के निजाम मसक के नकुरनीता शार अने सही निजाम मसक के नकुरनीता तिबे फुलुंग का निजाम अलगोन में वर्कशॉप एंड रिपेयर के नस्लदी अलगोन में देदुवस दे आहार नोनी 26 आहार तेरे तिबे फुलुंग का निजाम में पूरी हा मसला के हल कर देना बहुत शुक्रिया कहता मी दम्मी अलगोन में दावत अरवानी एजुकेशन आदि हेल्थ मिनिस्टर्स मी फुर्तमा अलगोन में गोवालनी एजुकेशन मिनिस्टर ऑफ स्टेट जुनान आदि एआई को अलगोन में दावत अरवानी मिनिस्टर ऑफ स्टेट फॉर हेल्थ एंड सोशल वेलबीइंग शायरफा प्रोग्राम पर बड़ा मरहबा आएंगे तो दे फुलना
शुक्रिया तौरी
अदे अलगोन तिबे फुलना दक्कालम बेनुआ वाहके की दिव्यराजी तावली निजाम है सही निजाम मी अदि इज्तिमाई वेलबीइंग मी रंगल कुर मट्ट का कुरो वाहकत मिको तो अलगोन फुरतो मी आने सुवाल कोलम बेनुआ एजुकेशन के दायरा बहे को तो जुनान मी तावली मी दायरा मिहार देहास फंसा हिसाब आदे वंगिन वर बैर करो तक मी वने हासिल कर वर बगार लणदे तक वने हासिल कर एकांत हासिल कुर में कुरिन दिव्यराजी का हालत खोबा दो
शुक्रिया एरुग दरिवरुंगे होलिस्टिक हुनर वर दक्क मालुमेन एरु फाग पुरवणु ಏಕೆ ಇದ್ರ ಮಸಕ್ಕತ್ತುಗೆ ಮಹಾವದ ತಯಾರವಮ ಬೇಣುವ ಹುನರುತ ವರದ ದರಿವರುಂಗೆ ಏರು ಅದಿ ಏರುಗೆ ತವಲೀಮಿ ನಿಜಾಮ್ ಬಿನಾಫೋತಿ එවේලා තවලීමේ නිසාමක අලුවන් මෙන් එරු මිහාර බොනානි
දැන් අනේ මිකන්ත රංගල කුරුමට්ට කලොනි කොන් කල් ෆේවල තකෙත්තෝ
මිහාර කියවා දිනමක අලුවන් මෙන්න හෝලිස්ටික් අදි ජමානා ගුළුන් හොරි හුනරු තරග්ගී කුරවේ අද ඒකේතර දෙහස් 520 වන ආහාරුගේ දිරිවොළුමුගේ හුනරුත දස්කොද්දවේ කුදින්න මිහාර වල මෙන්න මිසාලක බුණඤ්ඤා ෆයිනෑන්ෂල් ලිටරසි ඉමර්සිව් ලර්නින් දෙයකේතර ජමානා ගුළුන් හොරි එක්ස්ට්‍රා කරිකියුලර් ඇක්ටිවිටීස් තා අලුගොඩ මෙන්න මිහාර මජබූර් කුරවේ ස්කූල් තවගා අදි community service adi civil engagement taaraf kurevich alwad menna mege itora research adi innovation warapod iskome alwad me badem then technology ge higa inclusive education for ko dinama alwad me wara bura masakkate mihare bakuram adi nimmale alwad fa kuram beenun kudinna industry tajriba kashawar koddeve alwad menna miharu
बड़े शुक्रिया गते अने तेवे मालूम आते दे अलगोन भी साब सुवा कोल्ला न मी शायरफा वे तो अलगोन कोल्लम शायरफा अलगोन कोल्लम बेन वसवा के मी सही आदि इस्तिमा इदोले हो कमा बे को तुम एलोन फियालो तक बे को तो एको अने मी गिना अने मी दासी तक हुन्ना मी कंत तरंगलो कुरुमगा एम फुरतो मी हल्लु कुरुम कुरिन दिवे राज्य एरो अने ओय दाइता की को बात
अदे शुक्रिया in 2024 gavarabodu major issues take algodumenna fenigendia health and social level ga ei algodumenna dimavi bodu kambodumaki eruga lifestyle of Maldivians was bunanya vara unhealthy style egga work based obvious noniya geterega vias vara unhealthy lifestyle egga rajyage eki kankoltuga rajyage ki rajashugas practice koramundiye and adi environmental issues taka hediyes varagina balita rajyage eki rajashuga algodmenna fahagavi then covid-19 ge pandemic ka hedi algodmenna varabodu eroye fenuni health system bar eka health system ma control nukurevena varuge burat issue edimavi because a lot of people were put in COVID-19 ge a pandemic ga dimavi huriha kankama handle kurevena wasiletta gina rarashuga fahaga vegen diye iru ne so e huriha kame hallu kuruma alkodumenge plan ready kolla fawi e firm policies ta innovative ideas peenun kogge huriha rarashigga sihi adi ijutimai wasilette we have fola minigga gendeve gotaga
ding ane mi misabun ane mi kenawun hallu taka begutu komeswerka hitsa ko de fanto
laba then dehas sawi hum feshigen adi miyada hamaya technology algodmenge warabbodu resource so technology ge wasilata rajyage eki kankolu taka fasehen access kurevena nizame algodmen ufedi gendiyei then visiting medical professionals rarashuga eki rajyage regional areas takuga clinics ta bina kurevi e clinics takuga wasile foru koddevena nizame ready ko e doctor unna e wasilata foru koddevunu and ijtamai vulnerability address kurumuga eki wasilata ufedigen gos adi social recreational facilities eki rarashuga eki level takegga bina kurevi e bina kurewon tantanuge management ege wasilattakuge framework algodume maintain kuramundiyai eruge societal issues takaka noniya eruge lifestyle ge issues ta address kurevena e kurevena hen algodume e etan ready kolla finnane a process adi e huriya program tabbes ready kurevi fini and intergenerational harakat adi eruga algodume kawaranu effene so algodume emme furthames disni intergenerational algodume me annani wara duwasvi mi honne algodume mihara ngairu mitibi eruga algodume population na bala horiha kamegga ehem wima intergenerational harakayetta aama kurevi kurumuge gotun rajyage eki rarashuga eki wasilatta bina kurevi gos rajyage eki horiha umuru fureegge befulunna enjoy kurevena eki wasilattaka eki binata ready kurevi befulunna e programs taka wasilatta for koddibba adi ege muhimmukan kiyadava e lifestyle build kuruma intergenerational lifestyle build kuruma algod me vara boda bara alwa binata ready koddini then algod me notice vi vara bodu ekkame medical mafia 2024 ge medical mafia ge sababu algod menge vara gina medical services medical wasilatten ini gatekeep kurege profit based kon eruge algod menge visnun ini ehme algod me eti badal kollumuge gotun medical mafia influence in healthcare system our nizamige gotun a gotaka tarif ko algod men committee ready kuri regional based committees takoga e committee ge misalaka e region negga genda healthcare eki medical mafia ge influence netive genda healthcare system ekkan gaam kurevi in ege system ge terege ege kam dimave jiya report ko hallu kurevena eki wasilatta ibe fulona for kodde
debe flus ane berber syukuriyati ane hisa koller ma ad berber syukur dan nom string kurawa ti bura masakat taka gawme taragi taka anikas sponsor ge handanga kollana before algon menge sponsor ki medical no fear sihi nizama bayko no foods forwati idumetawga agu boduwe idumetan hodan datitakin ulenita mi product ki tibe flu sihi farwa gaim for kodde huriha tanike beru gabbe in the product etelo kudarataka dormati ga mi product bendumun medical mafia ge no foods e tang salame kodde anikas amra program ali alwadan den algon me dawat arwani program ge fahu mehmana misa algon me gulani ane Minister of State for Environment and Food Security ai hama
still ringing
hello assalamu alaikum
shukriya tarif
and me algon menge program warboda marhaba inge to ai ham den mehar algon me dakkala wahake 2050 hisab gawme taragi genemu ngero konkal ane me daitaka to dimavi adi konka kurerun take to libi fahori megudun ane envar and me dimaveshi ge dairain ane air dimai for gonjehun taka me libi fahori kurerun taka bed algon mena maduma kol hisa kod fund
shukriya tarif wara muhimmu suwalek kanne algon me visna algon dekeni rajyege timavetta dimave emme bodu harisaek gotuga dogakannuwane effada kurume bunume tima fehono iloshi heruni tima lulashe kurumatiga balanhutta tarikamuda neguli ufamwe domveligadu girigendatam balanjehu namas miyedu aharen fahatum domveli tundimatin torifa gulige midani eddo timavettaki gaanun asasiga amuru koffava gotun kuriyen we jeedutaka rakka teriko amanatekkan handanve mi merumun gawmuge siyata farma koremu
ane de siyasat farma kurmuga mi hasiko masake kuri kon khadima kun takada adi mi e masak katun kurunu ane mi libunu kurerun taki kobato
misalaka eduwahu maafaru airport extension EIA ge dashun EPA nogo jehima alugondu kahala minister ka green light kurebunas miyedu ekame hudu nuwane ei mikan hasil kurevigen diya siyasataki Ministry of Environment ge kastalun Environmental Protection Agency minimum muassasa ge furiham bharata libiti kashwaru poge timavetta kanduge viewga ki tourism ge bingalavumu miyedu aharumenge resort taki hikki falutakegge matigawa artificial resort island taka nuvumu divehi rajyege sagafata tarika market kurevige micche vikkige rajyege falu ha adi giritam himayeddi bingikkum virtually huttuige decentralized regional development isko majburi infrastructure nuun ecche hitage bina kurevi eki zone tawga amilla ufeddun terikan iturko washajehe fehi iktisode gaim kurevige eya barosave ufedde kuni effectively manage kurevige kandubaanya ayya javvun current ufede nizamutake kashwaru kokke raggiruma rashegge helifan himayek kuri beerun genna hilagalaku nuunka namaves garunek kurim vesuri fara fala chasbintakun libe gudurati rakkaluga nizam himayek koggenka ka mahuge stock the manage kure importa duraggos dandugowan kurevi effective marine spatial planning tamfis ko mi view ga adi mi view ga ge sindifa science backed policies meduvari ko conserve ko manage kurevu eiden algonu magadu gotekka puri kantata ki there's a lot more to it
bada shukriya inge to minister ya
shukriya
ad misa balgon me program nimma ma koring අලුගොන් මේගේ ෆහු ස්පොන්සර් මතින් හදු මා කොල්ලාන අලුගොන් මේගේ ෆහු ස්පොන්සර් කි रईतुन के बार जूस इज्तिमाई इक्तिसादी अदि कौमी कंतर रंगल कुरंग उले उले वरबली वीत सियासत का मेदो अडु फुला उफुला हिवरु गेल्लु नीत हासनुए अळगण में मितारफ करनी रईतुन के बार जूस बोला जोश आकुरे बड़े बड़े शुक्रिया है तो हुरिया बेफरने
Thank you, youth advocates. We hope that by 2050, our collective dreams will become a reality. Coming back to the present day, we now move on to the highlight of today's event, our high-level panel discussion. This panel will explore key issues related to youth and policy making in the context of our nation's future. The panel will be moderated by Ms. Nubla Shuaib. Nubla is a dedicated professional and an aspiring writer with a passion for youth engagement and community development, currently serving as the youth engagement intern at UNFPA Maldives.
Thank you, Ufa. Our panel today is composed of diverse backgrounds, bringing with them many years of experience in policymaking. This far have contributed in shaping the world we live in today. With the dialogue we start today, we as youth advocates hope that your expertise can be utilized to reflect the future we want to see, live, and breathe through in 2050. Please welcome to the panel Ms. Aishat Sharif Hussain, Minister of State for Social and Family Development. Please welcome to the panel Mr. Ahmad Sharif, Minister of State for Higher Education, Labor and Skills. Minister Ali Sharif, Special Envoy for Climate Change. And Dr. Aishat Shahuda Abdullah, Deputy Minister of Economic Development. Thank you for joining us today, panelists. I would like to open the questions to the panel, and I would like to remind everyone that these questions were selected by our youth advocates during our 3-day workshop. We have identified key aspects that we as youth feel require urgent reforms in terms of planning in order to realize our Vision 2050. Some of the most worrying aspects highlighted include our climate crisis that contributes to prolonged health issues in our urbanized cities and communities. As we move towards an aging population, we want to have more spaces that foster intergenerational connections, which in turn ensure efficacy in our developmental milestones. The first round of questions to Mr. Ahmad Shafi. Education and skill development are vital for preparing future generations in a rapidly changing world. How can the current educational policies be adapted and gaps in reaching the hardest to reach groups be met to prepare the youth of the Maldives for future workforce needs? What strategies can be implemented to address this gap?
Thank you. To start off, let me first send my best wishes on the World Population Day, and also congratulate the youth who have presented their vision, I think, for their future, what we need to deliver for them even right now. Talking about future skills and gaps, I think we are at a stage where I think we ourselves have come and met with the future. Because future usually is something that we often say is something that is to come. But our status or where we are, it seems that future has come and met with, and we are still lagging behind in reaching to that level. So even without talking about future, I think it's very important that we also look at the current context of the situation. World has changed. We are in the 21st century. The kind of skills that the employers and also the industry is looking for, it generally is seen like unavailable and not being here. So there are certainly a lot of work that need to be done. So to start off, I think while we do talk about 21st century skills being integrated into our curriculum, into the workforce, the first thing that we need to do is identify where we are falling short or what the gaps are. So in this regard, I think one of the things when we look into either the school curriculum or whether skills development curriculum or higher education is the gap that exists in meeting the requirements of the current needs as well as the future needs that we look into. So as a strategy, what we are looking at is to ensure that there are 21st century skills embedded into the curriculum. So as we even speak right now, there is a policy development or consultancy that is currently underway where we are looking to identify what in fact are the core skills. I mean, even ILO identifies, like, if we are to be functional in this day and age, we need to have set core skills. And however, these core skills are not components that are being currently addressed within the curriculum that we have. We may be teaching to a particular curriculum, but the core skills of, to start off, digital literacy, for example. In how many of our programs do we have digital literacy as a core component of a curriculum, which is lacking? But more importantly, there are other human skills, which I think sometimes we often call them as soft skills and then give the least priority to that. But today, when employers are seeking certain commitments, it is now what we used to call as the soft skills, which are in fact considered the more important what employers have. For example, our commitments, empathy, how we are able to relate to one another, being able to work as a team. And I think more than anything, the skills of adaptability. Because world is changing, a constant, and like in a changing world, I always say there's only one single constant, which is change itself. So the most important thing is that our curriculum, our skills development would need to facilitate for us to address to these changes. So to put it, I think briefly, we are still a bit far behind, but I think we need to strategize to ensure these components be integrated into our teaching and learning system, to ensure the kind of vision or hopes that the youth has just presented be integrated into our curriculum and learning processes. Thank you.
Thank you. We hope to see the integrations being made soon. Thank you so much for your insight. And the question to Ms. Amnat Sharif Hussain, social challenges and societal well-being. Addressing social challenges faced by the youth today requires a comprehensive approach that includes providing social protection mechanisms to mitigate vulnerabilities and promote overall well-being. What policies can be implemented now to ensure social equity in the Maldives by 2050?
Thank you. I think first, before I start, we need to address or define equity. So equity obviously is recognizing that every person has very specific and different needs which need to be addressed and challenges that need to be addressed so that we can support them fairly and with equal outcomes. One of the things that we have noticed so far is the most vulnerable in society have been neglected in our policy making and also in the programs we plan in our country. We need to establish policies based on evidence, and as we all know, in the social sector, evidence is lacking. But currently, I know there's a lot of work being done to ensure that we can collect more evidence so that for the future, we can ensure that the most vulnerable and the people who need it actually are able to get the services they need. So that is one of the aspects. To look at social policy programs that we have currently, we have currently programs that address vulnerable populations such as elderly, vulnerable, disability, and then low-income families. But something we need to also look at is, are they actually reaching the people that clearly need it? From what we've noticed in being out and about is that there are some families that are falling through the net, although we have several agencies working in the sector. So this is something that really needs to be addressed in terms of making sure that everyone gets the services they need. Another aspect is decentralized social protection programs. So, and looking at early identification of these issues that we have emerging in our society, and to ensure that these are addressed early and intervention is taken place before things become too difficult to address. So in that regard, we have introduced a program called IBAMA, which is a multi-sectoral community-based program who will be obviously looking at highlighting or early identification of such issues and addressing them early on before they become major problems. Another thing is obviously the need to increase healthcare. The infrastructure or the availability of healthcare facilities, I think, especially in the atolls and islands, need to be looked at. So this is something that really needs to be addressed. I have only a few seconds, I think. So I think another thing I don't want to stop without highlighting is to establish a multi-sectoral gender equality action plan. It's been established, but the implementation of it has been challenging for us. And we need to include that women are obviously provided the same or equal opportunities that we have been providing for men. One of those things that we've been doing is I think SDFC has established a loan system for for people who have who aren't able to address or access the loans that are usually available for the bigger companies. So this has been very successful, I think, and they've received, as far as I know, 216 applications towards this. I just want to also highlight that this loan, $100 million loan, 25% of it is allocated for people with disabilities. So this is something completely new being done by this government, and this should hopefully help in this regard. For the current government also, there is a pledge to ensure that people with disabilities are able to access jobs if they are interested in applying for jobs. And in this regard, we've set up a program where so far we've been able to permanently employ around 11 people so far since this government came into place. So that is something I'd like to highlight as well. So there's a lot being done in this regard, and I think there's a lot more that needs to be done. So thank you.
Thank you so much for your insight. With respect to time, I would like to remind the panelists to please keep the answers brief and under 3 minutes. Thank you. Moving on to the environmental concerns and climate crisis to Mr. Ali Sharif. Our community plays a crucial role in conserving the nature for the future by being aware of the climate crisis and engaging in environmental initiatives and leveraging technology to preserve our natural assets, which are vital for our livelihood, as we previously mentioned in our presentation. What immediate actions are necessary to address the climate crisis and ensure environmental sustainability in Maldives by 2050?
First of all, yes, thank you for the inviting me here. And then maybe first of all, I would like to congratulate the participants who presented their vision for the future in 2050. And as a dad with 2 daughters, I think that was really touching to see where the youth wants to be in 2050. And just to start on, I think first I would like to if I am alive, I would really want to see you be the Minister of Environment in 2050. I'd be the first to congratulate you, believe me. No, just jokes aside. No, but that is true, though. No, I mean, everybody was too serious, so I thought, okay. Now, you see, the very first thing is I see, in the presentations, I have seen that you have very rightly marked that, to see economic diversification. I think that's something really very critical that we would really want to see, not only in climate perspective, even in economic perspective as well. And for the climate perspective, the very first thing I would say is, yes, the climate projections for Maldives are already available, and the science is already, improving day by day. Yes, it is uncertain, but the uncertainty is reducing and it's improving. So the policies that we are, putting in, that has to be built upon these climate projections, because these projections are no joke. There are reality, there are real facts being grounded into those projections. That's why even in many developed world, they are using this very seriously to develop their policies. So which is something we would be using, and even I think we've got our colleagues here who would be working on the national President's 20-year long-term development plan, and we have put the climate projections and the climate risk and the resilience to be the very foundation of that. So for 2050, in short, I would say that would be the very key foundation that we would be putting our policies for the future.
Thank you. Moving on to our future livelihood opportunities, to Dr. Aishat Chauta Abdullah. Supporting small businesses with financial incentives fosters entrepreneurship and economic growth. Implementing flexible work arrangements, family-friendly policies is essential for enabling employees to achieve a healthy work-life balance. How can our government effectively structure financial incentive and support programs to maximize their impact on fostering entrepreneurship and economic growth among small businesses?
First, before addressing your question, I would like to first thank the youth advocates for the points that they highlighted. And therefore, my question will be revolving around some of the points that you did mention. It's more specifically 4 points. So number 1, strengthening SMEs and informal sector. Number 2, informal and freelancer sector development. Number 3, develop creative arts and financial literacy. So before I jump into those points, I'd like to highlight a very interesting report by the Maldives Statistics Bureau, the population dynamics based on the census 2022. So this report is showing that Maldives is experiencing a youth bulge. So what does this mean? So it means that a proportion or a percentage between 15 to 29 exceeds that of other age groups. So you can use this youth bulge quite simultaneously with words like innovation, creative thinking, creation of new industry. So why am I highlighting these points? It's because looking back at the pledge of Dr. Muiz, he talks about developing a creative economy. And when we're talking about creative economy, we're talking about not just the ones who are making traditional handicrafts. We're talking about singers, we're talking about digital artists, we're talking about the emerging technology, the people working on that. And our ministry is currently working quite diligently on the creative economy. So going back to your question, what can we do to create a financial incentive and support programs in relation to what you identified? And I would like to highlight 3 points. Number 1 is access to markets. Number 2 is targeted financial incentives. And number 3 is capacity building. So what is our ministry doing in relation to these 3 points? So number 1, for access market, we, in relation with our ministry and Authentic Maldives, I'm pretty sure some of you may have heard about Authentic Maldives, and it's used to promote genuine local products. So this is once again in relation to what you mentioned about creative arts. So it initially started as just one shop in a duty-free shop in Valerna Airport, but now it has expanded to Kansai Airport as well as Narita Airport, and we also have a kiosk in the World Bank Washington DC headquarters. So yes, we're trying to work our best, and we're heading in that direction, and essentially we still have quite a lot of work. When we're talking about targeted financial support, as State Minister mentioned, we are also working with SDFC, and we have some of the notable financial products as Danduwari Nafa, as well as Kandufalu Nafa and Fasha Madad. And Fasha Madad is the one that she mentioned. We are targeting the ones that are often overlooked, agriculture and fisheries, as well as women entrepreneurs. They don't have access to financial loans without the collateral. And that's where we are looking at how can you get inclusive financial support but without that collateral requirements. And that's what our ministry with SDFC is working on and has worked and quite successfully achieved as well. And number 3 is capacity building. And with our ministry and Business Center Corporation, we are working quite diligently once again to look into the things the youth has mentioned. Is we do offer workshops and consultancy and advisory, especially for sole entrepreneurs and small businesses, because they're the one who lack the business literacy as well as the financial literacy. And we do provide, as soon as you come to our ministry as well as BCC, hey, we need help. And we're there for help because essentially we are there for you as creators or businesses entrepreneurs.
Thank you, Dr. Shahota.
I have a bit more, but probably could add on to the next question.
Perhaps we have with time constraints, I would like to remind once more to keep it under 2 minutes. But those are very insightful remarks and very interesting conversation. Perhaps we can have later. Moving on to round 2 of questions to Mr. Ahmad Shafi. What strategies can be employed to ensure the aging population? Because in 2050, my generation and the youth here today would be the aged population. And as Dr. Shahota mentioned earlier, there is a youth bulge. And so by 2050, we're looking to have more aged people. And how can we ensure the aging population be productive through retaining and lifelong learning?
Yes, thank you. I think given the demographic of Maldives, especially looking at the 2022 census, we can see even again, not even looking at the future, but to the current situation. Those who are 50 years and above, when we look at the level of participation in the labor force, we are seeing only a very few numbers that are there. And I think looking at the statistics there again, so in terms of participation rate out of the elderly, at the moment, 84%, so nearly 84%, are considered to be out of work or participated. So not being involved in it. But then let's leave those who are 65 and above. But at least looking at those who are between the ages of 50 and 65, we are seeing the numbers go down as we move on. But I think the trend in the future is that if we are looking at the current policies of increasing the retirement age now, although legally we have not set it that, but then it's the government's policy to facilitate for those who wish to engage in work to help them. But then there comes the challenge of the mismatch between the skills that they have and what could be delivered. Again, going back into the data does show how much of a mismatch exists between current employment opportunities and those who are employed. And we are seeing number as high as over 30% of a mismatch even currently, even considering the whole working population of the Maldives. And again, this percentage is much, much higher when it comes to those who we consider as 50 years and above. But these are people whom we want to ensure that they be engaged. So yes, the first thing is that reskilling. What do we need to do in order to ensure that there is skilling opportunities provided for the aging population? And the key is, of course, continuous lifelong learning. We need to introduce strategies such as perhaps skills credit, where there is funding opportunities or financial opportunities provided for them. There is a very important program that recently started in Singapore, where I think they committed to offer up to $4,000 for those who are 45 or 40 years and above, so that they can get into training back in, so that they can remain relevant. So lifelong learning and ensuring that we reach out and identify where the mismatches are, and then facilitating to provide that training. So this is not going to be working on a selected cohort, but this has to be a sustainable system where, as you said, we are all going to age as we go along, and we need to ensure that these opportunities are established within the system, well institutionalized to facilitate this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ahmad Sharif. And a question to Ms. Amnat Sharif Hussain. What emerging trends do you see that could influence social challenges among youth in 2050? And how should we prepare to address them?
Thank you. So currently, if we delve into the social protection or social cases that are being reported to the ministry, what we're noticing is, especially that include young people or youth, what we're noticing is many of those cases are a result of family conflict or social issues that they might be facing. So what in our ministry, what we have started doing is more focus on the preventative side of things, early identification of what needs to happen instead of addressing them further down the line when we're having major social issues. So in this sense, I'd like to highlight, as you mentioned, that we have an aging population, and maybe even in that aspect, we need to now start preparing youth for healthy aging, and also address some of the challenges we are facing in that regard. We also need to address, I think, the social media usage or the habits that the young people are having. So what we're noticing is that a lot of the social media or what they're exposed to is shaping up young people's perceptions, their behavior or interactions, and also affecting their mental health. This is a major issue that we need to address, and also causing things like cyberbullying that they're facing on social media. I personally feel that obviously there's been a lack of attention on that side of things, but just to highlight that We are working on a violence against children action plan with UNICEF so far, and it's a multi-sectoral action plan. And this will be addressing many of those when the implementation plan is rolled out. So social media usage, cyberbullying, these sort of aspects is something that we will be addressing in that. Another thing is obviously just to highlight based on the education aspect of things, just digital education, and I think further access to online education, especially for the young people and the adults, is something that we need to obviously look into and make sure that that is addressed further down the line. And then just to finish off, I think, let me just mention, for example, job opportunities. So there's a major lack of job opportunities for young people. And we need to look at how we might be able to engage young people, what kind of jobs there are, and also find ways to retain them. So there's quite a few aspects in terms of the social challenges that young people face. But the current government is taking prevention as a major thing that we need to focus on. The whole ministry's work is mainly now focused on prevention as well, and I think that's going to make a major difference to what happens in 2050. Thank you.
That's very good to hear. Thank you. And moving on to Mr. Ali Sharif. Many young people are very anxious about the environmental existentiality of Maldives. What policies are there to ensure a resilient future for our nation and for our people?
Well, first of all, let's say about this existential. I personally don't believe that we would be existential because we have been surviving for quite some time, and I think even in 2015, maybe even beyond, we'd be still surviving. But the thing is, with the changing climate, yes, we would be facing some of the irreversible changes, I could say. Like, we've been seeing more frequent storms, more frequent flooding, and, those sort of events, yes, they are supposed to be increasing. So, like you said, I wouldn't totally frame as that. But, just to bring it to context of the previous speakers, I think, one of the areas, probably even the future minister also has stated, he wouldn't be placing boulder rocks for protection. But yes, that has been kind of a policy and a strategy so far. But I think that's being very expensive. The government has been, even in the past and even then, still would be looking for alternative, effective but cheaper solutions. But I don't think that would still happen with the Minister of Education. Here I could say still we haven't invested enough in the research and development, I should say. I mean, I can see lots of doctors and professors and practitioners who might have been in that research arena, other than the profession they are now, should that research and development have been, fully flourished. So I think, Minister, you still need to do a bit more on, get the research and development to be really part of our education system, even, our other areas as well. That has to be really invested if we are. That's something I saw in the presentations, because youth, really they thought about it, that has to be key something. That's why it came into their presentations, into their thought. But we in 2040 reality, we would have to still work on that. So that's one real thing, which would, of course, bring the resiliency. I might not entirely touch on your question, but climate change, being cross-cutting on many areas, I think that's one area which we would have to work. And you might have heard of, the national emission reduction target, which was 26% before, and then, she's showing me 1 minute. I don't know when it starts, but, President got a 33% reduction target as well, and then we'd be revising the national emission target next year. So we'd be reviewing and see how much we could push further, which would, push further into the increase in the climate resiliency. But given the time, I would just pause it there. Thank you.
Thank you. To Dr. Aishat Shahuda, what strategies should the government prioritize to encourage innovation in the diversification across various sectors of the economy and ensuring sustainable growth and reducing the dependency on traditional industries?
Some of the strategies that we are working on and will be working on is number one, intellectual property rights, and that's crucial when we're talking about creative economy, because essentially we're talking about protecting the creative art and the work that they're doing. So we have currently copyright bill is in the People's Majlis, and we are also working on the trademark bill, and hopefully we will be exploring more avenues when we're talking about intellectual property rights. And the second one is, adding on to the previous one, is we're also working on a creative economy fund. So this is specifically, once again, for the creators, because when we're talking about creators, they don't have access to finance, and it's hard for them to get loans and other access to financial products. Hence the reason why we're creating a creative economy fund, and we're quite doing research on that one as well. And the third one is somewhat of an announcement. We would be doing an Expo 2025. The date is not yet finalized, but once again, the idea is not only focusing on the traditional crafts, but going beyond that. We're talking about emerging technology and digital art. So we're talking about the future when we're talking about Expo 2025. And definitely, if you're interested, do join for the Expo 2025. And the fourth one is we are also going to establish a creator hub. So the groundbreaking event has already is completed, and this would be located in Chandani Magu. So the idea of a creator hub is to have a co-working space, which is similar to what BCC is doing, which is Seed by BCC. But it's adding on to the Seed by BCC, which is, it would also provide other technology and equipments, which typically creators or other entrepreneurs don't have access to. So we're essentially tackling two problems with one idea, with Creator Hub. So those are some of the strategies we're working on and will be working on in the future, yeah.
Thank you so much, Doctor. And that concludes today's panel discussion. And I hope that in the future we can have more panel discussions that we, and you will be present as well to take questions directly from our youth advocates and have more time to discuss on that. But for today, in respect to time, that is all for our panel. And we hope that, I hope that I was able to personally represent my colleagues and the youth advocates here and bring their voices to you, to the policymakers, you who will be making the policies and changes for our future and our 2050. So thank you so much for being here today, and thank you so much for joining our panel and answering the questions that we had. Thank you.
Thank you, Nubla, and thank you again to the esteemed panelists. We hope that all of the policy changes that you have promised us that are currently underway come into fruition very soon, and that it reflects all of our dreams that as you have addressed. Now, we would like to take a moment to reflect on the journey of the past 30 years, where we will look at some of the key successes, opportunities, and challenges we have faced in a short video clip that showcases our collective efforts towards a more equitable future.
Así fue como comenzamos a trabajar a una manera lenta, pero bastante positivo, bastante efectivo.
Los métodos de planificación familiar, los anticonceptivos, las enfermedades de transmisión sexual.
Bueno, la discriminación siempre ha habido.
We had a spate of violence against people with albinism.
They were not recognized. We do not have any kind of rights.
I live in hiding because we lack legal documents. I have no insurance. If they have no insurance, no medicine die.
So we have to know where these people are and can come up with better policies.
There are simple solutions to help us be more inclusive.
People with disability, taking them on board from the beginning, engage them.
Culturally relevant services for Native people.
Help ensure that people are treated with dignity and respect.
As we continue to stride forward in our commitments, it is my privilege to invite the Country Director for UNFPA Maldives, Mr. Kunle Adeni, and our esteemed Chief Guest, Minister for Housing, Land and Urban Development, Dr. Ali Haider Ahmad, to the stage to officially launch UNFPA's annual State of the World Population Report 2024. Following this item, our Chief Guest, Minister for Housing, Land and Urban Development, Dr. Ali Haider Ahmad, will deliver the keynote speech.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. The UNFPA Maldives Country Director, Mr. Kunle Adeni, colleagues from the Ministry of Housing, Land and Urban Development and the Maldives Bureau of Statistics, esteemed panelists for today's panel discussion, distinguished invitees, and my special guests for the day, our youth advocates. Good morning and assalamu alaikum. I'd like to extend a warm welcome to everyone joining us today for our World Population Day event. The theme for this year, Embracing the Power of Inclusive Data Towards a Resilient and Equitable Future for All, is particularly poignant. This year's World Population Day theme underscores the crucial role that inclusive data plays in shaping policies and initiatives that ensure that no one is left behind in our journey towards sustainable development. In our data-driven era, it helps us understand and address the needs of every individual, regardless of their background or circumstance. We've come a long way since the International Conference on Population and Development 30 years ago. We've seen progress in population dynamics, youth development, and women's rights. However, there's still a lot more to be done, and inclusive data is the key to achieving our goals. The Maldives has made remarkable strides in sustainable development, social equity, and environmental stewardship, reflecting our commitment to the 2030 Agenda. Yet, some sustainable development goals remain unachieved, highlighting the crucial need for inclusive data. The 2022 census data provides a valuable snapshot of our population, revealing trends and demographics that will shape our future. It underscores the importance of using this information for developing national policies and strategies. Our population growth rate, while modest, has implications for our environment, economy, and society. Like many other island nations, we face challenges from climate change and rising sea levels. We need to ensure that our population are protected from climate change-induced disasters through careful planning and development of climate-resilient islands. The choices we make today will significantly impact future generations. One key trend highlighted by the census is our aging population. This shift requires us to consider healthy aging, social protection, and leveraging the contributions of our senior citizens. We need to invest in geriatric care and preventative health care while fostering intergenerational solidarity and creating opportunities for youth. Amid these challenges lie opportunities for innovation and economic diversification. Accurate data is vital for planning. What works today might not be suitable for future generations. We need to start planning now with the right information to ensure a prosperous future. Long-term development planning is a key priority of this government. Inclusive development will ensure that all segments of society benefit from progress. We are committed to reducing disparities, promoting gender equality, and supporting vulnerable communities. Through economic diversification, environmental conservation, and investment in human capital, we will be able to build a prosperous future for our nation. Inclusive data is a bit more than statistics. It represents the stories of people striving for a better life. It empowers us to design resilient and equitable communities. We must ask ourselves, are we truly using data to create opportunities for everyone? Are we listening to marginalized voices? In that regard, I am proud to acknowledge the pivotal role that youth voices play in shaping our policy landscape. We witnessed this firsthand in the Vision 2050 workshop organized by the Ministry of Housing, Land and Urban Development, the Maldives Bureau of Statistics, and UNFPA. The workshop brought together young leaders who passionately shared their visions for a sustainable future. Their insights were not just inspiring, they were instrumental in guiding our discussions on how inclusive data can inform policy planning. We have heard your concerns loud and clear. You have all identified key challenges and the solutions you have advocated for, and those span various sectors crucial for sustainable development. Economic issues include overcoming dependency on a single sector through diversification efforts such as promoting arts and crafts industries and enhancing women's participation in tourism. Educational reforms aim to address skill gaps with initiatives like apprenticeships, peer-to-peer learning, and mandatory extracurricular activities. Infrastructural improvements focused on modernizing outdated systems with multipurpose spaces, green infrastructure, and climate-resilient designs. Healthcare and societal well-being priorities included enhancing access through mobile clinics, promoting active lifestyles, and supporting psychosocial services. Governance reforms target inclusivity, digital security, and environmental protection, seeking to strengthen oversight and accountability. Environmental strategies emphasize zero waste, sustainable tourism practices, and biodiversity conservation. Ensuring food security involves agricultural development and sustainable farming practices to meet long-term nutritional needs. So to all participants in the Vision 2050 workshop, thank you for your invaluable contributions. Your ideas will help us build resilient and equitable societies through evidence-based decision-making. Your enthusiasm, drive, and creativity needs to be appreciated and given a strong round of applause for. All right, thank you. Inclusive data identifies gaps and prioritizes development needs, ensuring fair and transparent policies. It's also required in monitoring and evaluation to track progress towards long-term goals. However, challenges remain. We need to address data privacy, accessibility, and the digital divide to ensure everyone benefits from data insights. Today, I call upon government institutions, organizations, and stakeholders to commit to harnessing the potential of youth for the greater good. Let us work together to build resilient and equitable communities and opportunities for a prosperous future by including all in the process. Let's hear the voices of our youth when making policies which would be theirs to lead. The World Population Day is not just a moment of reflection, but a call to action. Together, let us harness the power of diversity, promote equity and inclusivity, and embrace the transformative potential of technology and innovation. Together, we can charge a course towards a world where population growth is balanced with environmental stewardship, where everyone enjoys their rights and freedoms, and where sustainable development paves the way for a prosperous future. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you, Minister, for your words of wisdom and assurance.
As we conclude today's ceremony, I would like to extend our deepest appreciation to you all for your presence and participation, especially UNFPA Maldives, without whom this event would not have been possible, as well as the Ministry of Housing, Land and Urban Development and Maldives Bureau of Statistics for co-facilitating this dialogue. Let's continue working together towards a resilient and equitable future for all. We invite you to enjoy refreshments and seize this opportunity to engage in further dialogue informally. Have a wonderful day ahead, and thank you once again for joining us. Wassalamu alaikum.